Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Motorgraph World channel. My name is Mari. Today I'm here with two different models, the Hyundai Santa Fe, the hybrid model, and the Ford Bronco. So let's take a look at the two designs and how they both drive on the road, but we will be focusing on the hybrid Santa Fe, which most of you will be very keen on looking at. So let's take a closer look. So before, when we looked at the first look of the Santa Fe, when it was first released, we had the very dark graphite color. I personally liked that color the most. This one is the copper color. It's brownish, a slightly metallic color. I think a lot of you have been responding to the new Santa Fe face, saying that it's become much more streamlined and much more modernized. Some people were thinking that the Santa Fe would look much more masculine and robust, kind of like the Bronco here, but it's more refined. The big wheels and the big lip as well. Some of these features are on the Bronco are what really goes well with something like a Jeep or the Bronco because it's really off-terrain and a really masculine car. However, to one end, I guess the Santa Fe is a little bit more of an urban SUV rather than an off-road SUV. So for those who were expecting a real off-roader, they might have been a little bit disappointed. This is definitely a much more rugged off-roader, and you can tell by the side profile of the car. And what you can really tell is by what you see on some of the elements. First of all, with the front bumper and the attack angle or the approach angle to approach different rugged terrain, and for the tire to be better placed at going over rocks and rugged terrain. And because it needs to have that placement and room to move around, you have that good ground clearance from the bottom all the way to the actual bottom of the car. And now here is the Santa Fe. Of course, it's not as rugged as the Ford Bronco. It's a little bit more refined and it's more suited for the urban environment. In fact, these wheels are bigger than the Ford Broncos because these are 20-inch wheels. However, if you just look at it in terms of proportion and what you actually feel from the overall proportions, these look smaller than the ones attached to the Bronco. When the Palisade first came out, we thought that it was one of the biggest cars. But now, if you look right behind it, the Santa Fe is actually covering the Palisade. Unlike the Bronco, where you have a lot of design influences from previous Bronco models, here on the Santa Fe, you have very, very slim and sleek designs. You have the tail lights all the way down at the bottom, whereas the Bronco, it's a lot of pizzazz and a lot of design aesthetics. So let's open up the trunk and see how much room they have both inside. It's definitely super spacious. And of course, as I had expected, I mean, the Bronco, the height of the car is super high. It's very tall. And of course, the width of the car as well. I can easily fit myself in, even diagonally as well. And it's super comfortable. You'll be able to stack a lot of your luggage, a lot of your stuff inside because of so much space. The Santa Fe is not as tall as the Bronco. However, I have a little bit more leg room, and if I actually sit diagonally, I even have even more space. It's compromising a little bit on the height compared to the Bronco. However, it does give you a little bit more space diagonally. We showed you how much it had to compromise outside in terms of the designs. Boy, this really shows up a lot. By not adding those lights outside, you do get that much more space inside with the trunk. Sitting inside the driver's seat of the hybrid Santa Fe, you can see the distinct differences compared with the Bronco. And I don't like to really distinguish men's cars apart from others, but the Ford Bronco is definitely a car that really screams macho and masculine. All of the dials, all of the knobs and everything are quite analog. All of the turn knobs and dials and everything are quite oversized. Compared to that, the Santa Fe is distinctly quite refined and urban. And you really feel it, especially when you're sitting in the Bronco and then you switch over to the Santa Fe. It's very digital. And you see all of the knobs and dials and the touch screens immediately because it's such a contrast compared to the Bronco. Immediately you see the touch screen as well as the two different screens that are joined together. The Bronco is much higher up on the road. However, because there are hindrances from the fender as well as the rails, you feel that there's a lot of things that are bothering your line of sight, whereas the Santa Fe is quite clean. It's streamlined and you have a much more cleaner line of sight. This is the hybrid model. And compared to the gasoline version, there's not much of a difference except that there is this driver-only option. So what this does is it actually focuses all of the HVAC systems just for the driver to optimize all of its functions so that it can save up on the energy that it uses. This is such a step up, or like 2-3 steps up from the previous model. And because it's such an improvement, I am now nitpicking on some of the details. I don't really like all of this kind of same aesthetics on the lighting as well as inside. But again, I'm nitpicking because it's such an improvement from the previous model. So now I'm in the second row seats and definitely a lot of room. A lot of leg room, a lot of headroom, a lot of room all over, and very comfortable too. This Santa Fe also provides third row seats. Of course, it's foldable, very narrow seats, and usually you would probably fold them for luggage space, but nevertheless, it's 3 rows. But the second row seats are definitely super nice because it's actually individual seats and they're also heated. You have much room and it's comfortable. Also, from the center console, you can actually open this up from the second row seats so that you have access to the center console here. But you can also have a pull-out like this as well. So you have access to the bottom drawer here as well. The windows are very wide. Maybe not as tall, but they're very wide, so you have a lot of room for sight. And you also have these shades that you can pull up. And on the door trims, you also have 2 cup holders on the top and even one at the bottom. So you have 3 cup holders on each sides of the door. So compared to the Bronco, definitely both thumbs up for the second row seats. Even compared to the Palisade, which is maybe the competitor model in the domestic lineup. So now I'm in the most narrow and most uncomfortable third row seats. I think that I can fit in because I'm my size. One thing I would like to mention, however, is that the seats are quite comfortable. They're full of cushion. Although the angle of the seat is quite low, far low down, and I will have to sit in a very awkward, low sitting manner. And so this is why it's a little bit uncomfortable. However, I do have a lot of headroom. They also have ports for charging on both sides. And on the right-hand side, you can actually have a dial to adjust the rear AC, the HVAC. So those kinds of convenience factors are what makes the Santa Fe really stand out for the third row seats. This is the hybrid model, so there are slight differences in the overall drive of the car. This same engine or the powertrain has been applied to smaller models like the Sportage. It feels lighter compared to the gasoline model. However, in terms of the response of the engine and when you're stepping on the gas, it feels as if someone actually threw a handful of sand onto the engine and you get that harshness. So it doesn't feel as if the engine is having a hard time pulling through with the bigger car. So now I just changed the drive mode from Eco to Sports. With the Sports mode, it feels quite light and it actually pushes it forward. It propels it forward. And you get a little bit less of that harshness of the engine. So compared to the gasoline model, I thought that there might be a little bit of a difference in the comfort of the ride or the comfort level of the ride because there's batteries stacked on the bottom. However, from the driver's standpoint, I don't really feel that there is much of a difference. However, it seems that for the second row seats, it has become a little bit more stiffer compared to the gasoline model. Before, with the gasoline model, it was a little bit more bouncier. But from the driver's seat, I think that they're neck and neck. And with adaptive cruise control, this actually has the lane follow and lane keep assist functions. And I think that it's very stable at the moment. And even with it telling me when to place my hand on the steering wheel, it's just a matter of touch. I don't need to grab the handle or the steering wheel. It just asks me to place my hand on the steering wheel. It should be, I say should, because it should be quite noisy inside because of the wind noise and all of the noise coming in from the roads. However, I hadn't even noticed it because it was actually so quiet. So with the comparable specifications, the reported or announced combined mileage of the Santa Fe is 13.0 kilometers per liter. And at the moment, I'm driving at 12.7 kilometers per liter. So we're on par. So I like both of them on each different aspects. The Ford Bronco, I do like the rugged design and interior, the dials and the analog feel of it. However, I am gearing a little bit towards the Hyundai Santa Fe in terms of the refined drive as well as the quietness of the interior. And I have recommended it to so many of my friends because it's a stealer in terms of the cost, the reasonable drive and the spaciousness, and overall as a complete package. So tell us what you think down below in the comments and I'll be waiting for your reviews. With that, I'll say goodbye and I'll see you next time.